All right, good morning, everybody. How are we doing today? Been kind of an interesting morning already, hasn't it? So hopefully everything will go at least relatively smoothly and Spirit will be on our side today. Before I go any further, if you could please turn off your cell phones or at least put them on vibrate. I would appreciate that, and I know so would Spirit. And then if there's anybody who would like to go back and ring the Christabelle, anybody want to go do that? We would, there we go, all right. Julie, if you want to go too, we can have more than one person do it. Yeah, there you go. Pull it, wait about a second and a half, and then there you go. All right, great job, you two. Thank you very much. And as I say every week, we always we ring the Christabelle as a way to help raise the vibration of the chapel and to really help Spirit to know that we're ready, that it's time to spend some time just being a little more spiritual, letting go of all of our stresses from the week before. And I kind of have a feeling that everybody here can relate to having had stresses last week. It's just been kind of one of those weeks. So, without further ado, I will go into our weekly announcements this week. Now, we have created a small lending library over here in the healing room off the main chapel. If you would like to check out a book from there, we do have a sign-out sheet. We have books on several spiritualist subjects, as well as some that aren't quite so spiritualist specific, but that are still very interesting. And so yeah, feel free to check it out, check a book out, maybe help learn a little bit more about spiritualism, about some of these spiritual related subjects. I have started offering readings through the church again. I kind of had to hold off because of the pandemic. I have started again, so if anybody is interested, you can schedule through the church's website or by contacting me directly. For in-person sessions, it's $100 for 45 minutes, and a portion of that does go back to the church. It's not just all going in my pocket. And it is really a wonderful way to receive more guidance, more wisdom, some more insights, or to reconnect with a loved one in spirit. For all of my mediumship students, don't forget to do your homework every day. And I say that every week, but it's just a nice, gentle reminder since I have this bully pulpit to work from. Don't forget to do your homework. Our next church board meeting is going to be held October 3rd at 9:30 a.m. Everyone is invited to attend, to come be a part of the process. You may not be able to vote during those meetings, but at least you can have your voice heard. Our next Wednesday evening Spirit Greeting Service is held on Wednesday, October 13th at 6:30 p.m. We do appreciate everybody's patience because apparently there was kind of a snafu in getting everything, getting the information out there that last month's was canceled. So I do appreciate everybody's patience in waiting for this next one. We do limit our Wednesday evening Spirit Greetings to 20 people, and we ask for a donation of $20 per person for those, but everybody does receive a reading. We also have, for anyone who is interested in helping to kind of bring a little more awareness to the church, or to kind of help, I don't want to say promote, but we do need a little extra fellowship in here. And so if anybody is interested, we do have flyers. We have these lovely brochures that were made up that if you want to bring any, drop them off around town, wherever you happen to be, we would greatly appreciate it. We have plenty, so if you want to take any of them from the stack here in the front, and I think we also have some at the very back of the chapel on the table. If you want more than what we have here in the chapel, let me know, because we have plenty in the back. If you don't have the time to contribute to help the church out by volunteering, but you still want to look for a way to help, any financial assistance that you can provide would be greatly appreciated. As you can see, we do have some electrical issues in the chapel now, and wow, it just got a lot darker. And anything that you could do to help us to keep the lights on, to help keep things running, would be greatly appreciated. For anyone who would rather provide their offering online rather than in person here at the chapel, we do have a virtual offering plate that is available through the church's website, in the comments for our church's YouTube videos. as well as on our church's Facebook page. So again, any assistance that you can provide would be greatly appreciated. And now, let's move into the more formal portion of our church service. I ask that you please bow your heads for our opening invocation. In the name of infinite life, in which we live, move, and have our own share of individual conscious being, we now beseech all good, pure, true, loving, wise, and strong influences to come to us during this time. Amen. All right. Now, if you could, please turn your hymnals to the front inside cover. And I ask that you join me aloud in reading our Declaration of Principles. And for anyone who may not be aware, the Spiritualist Declaration of Principles is really, if you want to think of them as the pillars of our religion, this is what really makes spiritualism unique and so wonderful, in that we have these 9 principles to help us to live as guidelines. So if you could please join me in reading. Number 1. We believe in infinite intelligence. We believe that the phenomena of nature, both physical and spiritual, are the expression of infinite intelligence. We affirm that a correct understanding of such expression and living in accordance therewith constitute true religion. We affirm that the existence and personal identity of the individual continue after the change called death. We affirm that communication with the so-called dead is a fact, scientifically proven by the phenomena of spiritualism. We believe that the highest morality is contained in the Golden Rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. We affirm the moral responsibility of individuals, and that we make our own happiness or unhappiness as we obey or disobey nature's physical and spiritual laws. We affirm that the doorway to reformation is never closed against any soul, here or hereafter. We affirm that the precepts of prophecy and healing are divine attributes proven through mediumship. Yes, we do, every week. And now let us begin our healing portion of our church service today. At this time, I will be reading from our list of absent friends who are in need of healing. And when I finish reading those names off, if you have anybody that you would like to add to that list that has not been already read, please feel free to say that person's first name or just say that family name, and we will add them to our thoughts and prayers in this moment. After that, then we will play our healing hymn. But first, please send these people all your healing thoughts and energies. Deb, Fred, Debbie, CJ, Ryan, Geraldine, Donna, Becky, Charlie, Stephanie, Nartha, Tana, Jacob, Ken, Kelly, Sharon, Gerald, Scott, Jeriah, Brianne, Brittany, Ken, Jennifer and family, Joanne, Julie, Karen, Jamie, and Rebecca. Does anyone have any names they'd like to add? And I'd like to add one more in Gina. Now, at this time, we will play our healing hymn. If you could please turn your hymnals to number 11. we will be singing In the Sunlight of Today. Whoops. Whoops, wrong one. I apologize. Nope, that's right. March and never weary, never falter by the way. Let us make the world more cheery in the sunlight of today. In the sunlight of today. In the sunlight of today. Let us make the world more cheery in the sunlight of today. Let us grasp the hand that smites us and hold anger hard at bay. Wronging others never rights us in the sunlight of today. In the sunlight of today. In the sunlight of today. Let us make the world more cheery in the sunlight of today. Let us bear each other's sorrows and with sympathy full sway, looking for the bright tomorrow in the sunlight of today. In the sunlight of today. In the sunlight of today. Let us make the world more cheery in the sunlight of today. All right. Now, if you could, please turn your hymnals to the back inside cover. And please join me in reading aloud the prayer for spiritual healing. I ask the great unseen healing force to remove all obstructions from my mind and body, and to restore me to perfect health. I ask this in all sincerity and honesty, and I will do my part. I ask this great unseen healing force to help both present and absent ones who are in need of help, and to restore them to perfect health. I put my trust in the love and power of Spirit. Amen. All right. Every week, everybody knows what this means. All right. Your sermon for today will be presented by yours truly. This is the story of how I died. And subsequently, this is also the story of how I was reborn. I look pretty good, right? Pretty fly for a dead guy. When I say that I died, I am referring to my own personal Noche Oscura, or dark night of the soul. Okay, so show of hands, how many of you out there are aware of exactly what that phrase means? Okay, a few of you are. Okay, cool. Now, of those of you who know what it means, how many of you have actually experienced one? Oh, a couple of you have. Okay. Now, for those who may not be sure if they've actually experienced your own Noche Oscura, when you have one for yourself, you'll know. In my case, this was actually the second time that I've experienced one in this particular incarnation. I'm sure you're all just dying to know about that fact, but first, a quick history lesson for all of you. The term Noche Oscura, or Dark Night of the Soul, actually relates back to a poem written by Juan de Yepes around the year 1580. What, nobody knows that name? Would some of you poetry or theology fans recognize that person better if I called him San Juan de la Cruz? A few of you are nodding your heads. All right. I love the looks, though, because so many of you out there are going, no, Pastor Mark, that doesn't help me at all. That's okay, moving on. The main thing is that we talk about what this is. So, briefly, San Juan de la Cruz was a 16th century Carmelite friar, priest, and mystic. And while his poetry career was actually only quite short, it was really only about 4 or 5 years long, he is best known for the poem of the title that I had just recited to you. It is an amazing poem, and I'm sure that you were all quite overjoyed and enthralled at the idea of hearing a poem that is 440 years old and written by some old guy that you've never heard of, right? No? I love some of the terrified looks, though. I mean, we've got Julie who's all excited, but some of you are like, oh no, not again. So I don't have to, you don't have to worry about it, because the poem is not only far too long for me to recite here, but I do have other things to talk about. And you know, it would be a nice touch. Some of you have a pillow and a blanket ready, just in case I have a poem going. But so anyway, where was it? Noche Oscura, the dark night of the soul. You know, and obviously that's not just the Dark Knight, or else we'd be talking about Batman, although, you know, he is the Dark Knight, and everybody does have their favorite Batman, right? Michael Keaton. But that really isn't the most spiritual of subjects, is it? So, although, you know what, honestly, if you give me a week or so, I bet I could probably come up with a sermon on spiritualism and how it relates to Batman. I'm Batman. So anyway, the poem itself is the first recorded use of that phrase that has been described countless times over the ensuing centuries. However, much like the practice of mediumship really predates the experiences of the Fox sisters, the fact that the term Noche Oscura, or Dark Night of the Soul, dates back to 1580, it does not mean that people were not having this experience prior to that date. It's really been happening since we decided to incarnate down here on Earth. And there are certain universal experiences that we all go through, and this really is one of them, that people across the world and the centuries have had experiences with. So I've been talking about it, and I've been talking around the Dark Night of the Soul, but what exactly is that? I mean, we all have heard that phrase before, but what exactly does it mean? Now, in my personal experience, a lot of people who hear the term may not necessarily understand the true significance of the experience. The Dark Night of the Soul really refers to the fact that on very rare occasions, some of us will go through a period of death and rebirth. We can come back from the experience a totally different person than we began it. And you know what, usually this death really occurs symbolically, but sometimes it happens literally. You know, much like the caterpillar entering its chrysalis to emerge as a butterfly, the transformation for a person can be that dramatic. Ultimately, a Noche Oscura is intended to cause the death of the ego part of yourself, to remove those preconceived ideas, preconceived limitations, those thoughts, words, and actions that are no longer serving you and are there kind of preventing you from connecting with your spirit part of yourself. So the goal here with the Dark Night of the Soul, which is not something we necessarily trigger on our own, is to assist you in becoming much closer, much more consciously aware of your own connection with infinite intelligence, with all that is, was, and ever will be. It's actually a process that can take days, weeks, or months to lead up to. But in the span of a day or two, as you are going through the experience, it may then take you days, weeks, and months to process everything that occurred during that short period of time. And again, I know I mentioned this at the beginning, but first off, not everyone will experience a Dark Night of the Soul in their particular lifetime. Next, not everyone who experiences their own Noche Oscura will do so in the same way. However, there are certain universal traits that can be pointed to when one of those occurs. Briefly, just kind of something for you to ponder as you consider the situation. Quite often, and this is just a heads up, quite often, the general symptoms leading up to your Dark Night of the Soul will actually mimic those of depression. The difference being that the cause of these experiences is much, much different. One is caused by a situation in your physical body and in your life. The other is not. And I'm going to leave you to decide which of those is which, but in the months, weeks, and days that lead up to the experience, you will notice several changes occurring in and around your life. Approaching the time of your death, you will begin to experience life differently. I know that's very dramatic of me to word it that way, but I'm serious when I say that it really is a form of death and rebirth. You will notice that you will go through an extended period of pain, either physical, emotional, or both. To quote Dr. Stephen Strange, which I know some of you will know who that is, pain's an old friend. And, I can hear a few of you out there already, though, saying, yeah, but I've been in pain for a long time. And that may be true, and I can empathize with that. I really can, having been there myself personally. But, unfortunately, being in pain does not necessarily trigger your own noche oscura in and of itself. It is not something that you can just call to you, nor is it something that you want to just call to you. If you're not ready for that experience in at least some capacity, you're going to find yourself doing more harm than good to yourself, mind, body, and spirit. Life will seem monotonous, a feeling of nothing ever changing. You are stuck on the world's most depressing hamster wheel, and you can't seem to get off, no matter how hard you try. That is, if you even have the energy to try and get off that hamster wheel. Which also leads us to fatigue. You'll be tired. Not just that sense of being to the bone tired that I'm sure we can all kind of relate to occasionally, but you'll be tired to your very soul. Every fiber of your being will just want to rest. You'll want to just fall asleep and not wake up. And it's not really a feeling of wanting to die necessarily. It's more a feeling of not wanting to live as you are. To use a line from the song Anna's Son, I don't want to live like this, but I don't want to die. I think a few of you can relate to that, right? You'll find yourself craving peace. Not just world peace, but peace from arguing or from difficult personal relationships. But you'll also find yourself just craving time alone. Quiet time in introspection and, dare I say the word, meditation. Oh, saw the eye rolls. All right. And that's right, you will find yourself actually wanting to meditate, to quiet your mind from all the physical world noises and distractions. You will also start to notice several coincidences, or as I prefer to think of them, synchronicities. Events that line up to point you in a specific direction. And this is something I think that we can all relate to at various points in our lives. And, I have spoken about that quite a bit in our church's All the Difference sermon. So now that I've given you a few insights into what to expect so that you're a little bit more prepared when your own dark night of the soul approaches, I think it's time to share my story with you regarding my own dark night of the soul. And honestly, I do seem to be a bit of a rare individual in that this is not my first rodeo when it comes to this sort of spiritual experience. Some of you might think of it as a gift or that I'm just more evolved, but honestly, that's not why I've experienced this more than once. I tend to think of it as because I'm a slow learner and I just need a little extra help. My first experience with this type of a spiritual situation actually occurred when I was 17 years old. During the course of that night in question, I was taken by my guides and a certain angel named Michael to Summerland. And I've spoken about this in the past, but I have been a spiritualist since even before I knew what spiritualism was. I have always had those thoughts, feelings, experiences that line up with what spiritualism teaches. I really felt like an entirely different person had come back from Summerland, and in that moment, I came back a much more confident, much more relaxed person, and I was someone who felt like they had a mission here. And I think all of you kind of at least have a general vague idea of how the ensuing 31 years played out, right? So we're just going to fast forward past all that to this most recent one. Over the course of the past several months, I've been feeling more and more stuck. My personal relationships have felt stagnant. The church hasn't grown in attendance the way that I really hoped it would. And everything, just everything. And again, I have a feeling a lot of you can relate to that feeling. Every area of my life made it feel as though it no longer needed or wanted me to be a part of it. I was struggling to understand why I was here on earth to do things and what it was that I was here to do. I really did. I questioned my entire reason for being here. If I was not here to positively impact this world, then why am I wasting the world's time? And during this whole period coming up to this, my wife and I had planned a trip to Las Vegas, and I was doing everything that I could to be excited for it and to manifest a fun time. So we get out there, we planned this trip, and everything started going so smoothly on our trip out there that it was obvious that we were being guided by Spirit. And we didn't even fly the airline. I still felt empty and alone, even though I had people, both physical and in spirit, surrounding me at all times. If anything, I really noticed that I could not block out the thoughts of those people around me. And sometimes I have a problem with that anyway. But it was getting increasingly more crowded feeling around me. Now, imagine being in a giant elevator that is packed wall to wall with people. You know that feeling. Or to use a little different analogy, since one of the reasons we went out there was so that my wife could actually see her favorite punk band, imagine being in the center of the world's largest mosh pit where you are surrounded by people and you are just squished and all these people are closing in on your space. That was what I was feeling. And all of this was going on leading into the night of September 5th and into the morning of September 6th. That night, I was telling Deb that, and for those of you who don't know, Deb is my wife, I was telling her that I was having the mother of all panic attacks, and I felt like everything was closing in on me. And now, obviously, I'm speaking about things on a more spirit level, but I could feel the physical space around me shrinking into a tunnel throughout the evening. I could see darkness enveloping me as I was entering into this tunnel. Finally, in the early morning hours of September 6th, I pushed through that most narrow point of the tunnel. And the way that I described it to Deb, as weird as this is going to sound, it felt like being born in reverse. I was being squished through this tunnel, and all the pain, stress, fear, worry, etc., all of that had been left behind me as I passed through the end of that tunnel. I was left with a sense of peace and solitude. A sudden sense of being alone with only my master teacher guide and my angel Michael around me. It was very interesting because I went from being in the middle of the world's largest mosh pit, where I could no longer hear and feel, where I could only hear and feel everybody's thoughts without a filter, to being quiet, blissfully quiet. It was 5:38 a.m. Eastern Standard Time when I opened my eyes. Deb was blissfully sleeping on the bed. I knew in that moment that I had died and also that I had been sent back. Now, for how often or for how long I'm back, I don't know yet. But from that moment, I felt different. And this is something that is also a very big indication for anyone of having been through a noche oscura. You will come through it feeling as though you really are going to feel as though you are an entirely different person than when you started that night. And I really mean that. Even now, I still feel different. In my case, how I felt before my own dark night of the soul, I had been completely caught up in trying not to offend anyone while also trying to be as helpful as possible. I never felt worthy of my own happiness, and I was terrified, absolutely terrified of being seen as selfish in any way, shape, or form. After that night, I returned without those fears. Indeed, without worries of any kind, really. Whatever life brings, I will handle it because I am strong enough. I am much less scattered than I was before. My thoughts seem clearer and much more focused. I'm not happier necessarily, but I feel stronger, clearer, and much more in control of what I want from my life. I also find that because my boundaries are so much stronger than they had been, that I'm not afraid to express what I want or need when something is truly important to me. Unfortunately, this also means that there will be some people who won't like that I'm standing in my own power and the fact that I refuse to apologize for asking for what I want. And this means that they will decide to no longer be a part of my life. And it is something that, while sad, unfortunately, it is necessary. A large part of my ego died that night. Does that mean that I am now a perfect spiritual being? Of course it does. No, but no more than any of you are perfect spiritual beings. Remember that. You really are. Each and every one of us is a perfect soul and spirit having a very imperfect human experience. It is the fact that it is so imperfect that is what actually makes it the most important part of our experiences. If there were no adversity, there would be no learning. After all, we are all here to learn, grow, strive, and thrive. The more adversity that we are able to overcome, the more empowered that we are. We must each learn to fear less and love more. The less we fear, the less we try and control. The more that we let go of that need for control, the more we realize that control is just an illusion. It is a way of trying to keep us from evolving into who we are truly meant to be. So, who are we meant to be? Beings of light, of love, of peace, and of joy. As you go forth this week, remember that even if you have not had your own Noche Oscura or dark night of the soul to propel you forward, you too can be making positive spiritual progress if you choose to. Focus on being the best version of yourself that you can be. Base your decisions on love, not fear. Base your thoughts on strength and not weakness. Live the life of an empowered soul. In other words, go forth and live the life of spiritualist truth. Live the life of a spiritualist. Thank you. All right, at this time, I do ask that the ushers please come forward for the collection of the offering. And if you could please bow your heads for a moment while we provide a prayer. Infinite Spirit, we give thanks for these gifts so generously given. Without these gifts, we cannot grow. We ask a blessing for what is shared with us today and a special blessing for the givers. May they continue seeing the law of abundance in their lives. We dedicate these gifts to the future of our church and to spiritualism. Amen. It's like a disco in here today. I haven't seen that much light change since my club days. Yeah. Been around once or twice. Oh. right. Now this will begin our spirit greeting portion of today's church service. And as I say every time, first we're going to be singing, but then I'll be going into a little bit of an explanation of our spirit greeting church service. And so without further ado, we will be singing today hymn number 167, Sweetly Falls the Spirit Message. If you could please turn your hymnals to that page. Sweetly falls the Spirit's message from the home beyond the tide. Ever do we bid thee welcome, dwellers from the other side. Welcome, loved ones, we are waiting to receive our words of cheer. Ever do they give us comfort mid our toilsome journey here. Often falls the cloud so dreary, or the rough and hidden way, when with care we outgrow weary, for the cheering words we pray. Welcome, loved ones, we are waiting to receive our words of cheer. Ever do they give us comfort mid our toilsome journey here. Sweetly falls the loving message when we pause blinded by tears to bind up the broken fragments of our work of lonely years. Welcome, loved ones, we are waiting to receive our words of cheer. Ever do they give us comfort in our troublesome journey here. Okay, now for our spirit greeting portion of today's church service, Kevin, did you want to also serve the platform today? Come on down. So, as we talk about every week, if you are interested in receiving a reading, just when the medium comes to you, just say, yes, you'd be interested. Stand up, and then we will begin to give you a spirit greeting. And again, the spirit greetings are meant to be evidential information that is designed to help you understand who it is that is talking to you, but also what message they might have for you. And I'll say it now instead of later. If anything that any of our student mediums gives you for information resonates with you or is extra validating, there are, at the very back of the chapel, we do have affidavits that you can fill out that really do help us to become certified with the NSAC. So without further ado, would you like to begin?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Pastor.
Here. Thank you. Feel free to read as many people as you feel comfortable.
Thank you, sir. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing? Good. Good. Oh, right. I love the song, what we just sang. That was awesome. Because it really says to the spiritualists that what we believe in is to let these loved ones come from the other side. And isn't it true that we have that faith to believe in that beautiful experience? And that's what we're looking for in that truth, that life, that visitation from the other side that so many other religions don't get a chance to do. But we have the ability and the gift to do it, if we just plug in. And what a beautiful transformation of the butterfly and thing that Pastor gave too, that hopefully we all can experience that. I did a little experience of all that too, and it's quite transforming, let me tell you. It's not fun sometimes, but I feel like I'm going. But anyway, here we go. Sir, may I come to you?
Yeah, those microphones take a little getting used to sometimes. All right, our closing hymn for today will be hymn number 181. And yes, I am making you sing that one again because that one is a favorite of mine. And I think we all need all the help we can get today, don't we? Yes. And that one is called Why We're Happy. We will tell you in this song why we're happy all day long, in our work and in our play. This is what we think each day, thinking thoughts of kindness, thinking thoughts of love, thinking thoughts of kindness, thinking thoughts of love. One more time. So, why we're happy all day long, in our work and in our play. This is what we have to stay, thinking thoughts of kindness, thinking thoughts of love, thinking thoughts of kindness, thinking thoughts of love. All right, please bow your heads for our closing benediction. We close this service with the deepest gratitude for this day. We ask a blessing on all who have taken time to join us today. May we be ever learning, ever moving forward beyond the errors of the past, and knowing we have an endless supply of new beginnings. Amen. This concludes our Christabelle Spiritualist Church service for today. If any of you would like to hang out and talk for a little bit afterwards, feel free. Otherwise, enjoy this beautiful weather that we're having. Thank you.